When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ledlow, and enjoy today's episode.
So there's a lot of people going with the ideology of, the romanticized vision of Call of Duty warfare. And then they find out what it's really like. Me personally, I've been through a couple and I'm good. If I never have to go back to another one, I don't want to. Sure. So you got to look at, I tell a lot of these guys.
This is the real stuff over there. This is real war.
It's different than we've ever seen. That's for sure. Like I said, unless you've been in trench warfare in, World War II. But it means
it's not like Call of Duty or playing video games, folks. This is the real stuff.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear some of the stories. Some goofy guy who was a storm chaser or something was down on the border. He had all these antennas on his car that he rented to go in. And I'm not sure what he was going to do in there, but this definitely draws in some of the cookies. At the same time, sure, it also draws in some really highly qualified people that know how to be really effective. Mostly, like I say, if you're looking at the special forces community, their mission was stability operations, right? It's going in and training. Right. It's building the locals. And the Ukrainian people are more than capable. They're highly educated. They have infrastructure. It's not like they're a developing nation. They're not perfect. Nobody is. We all have corruption and stuff to deal with, but they have enough people there that they just need, some of them just need a baseline. And honestly, we probably can learn a lot from them. They've been fighting this war since 2014. Exactly. And so, the idea some people have is like, oh, I got to do something. It's like, well, what's the most effective thing that you can actually do? Yeah. So right now, the most effective thing for us to do is give these guys equipment, find the people that can train them and have them give them some training, some baseline training, not going into the war zones or anything like that, not going in and saying, hey, I'm a hero and I can fix all this, because you can't, and then focusing on that scope and really trying to make a difference that way. Whatever you can do, that's the most wide reaching. And for most people, it's going to be reach into your pocketbook instead of spending it on a plane ticket and sitting around at the bar waiting for something to do. Put that money toward a group that's actually being effective, and there's quite a few of them that are doing some pretty good work over there. Samaritan's Purse, they're awesome. They have a hospital set up, trauma hospital. They're taking care of people,
Are they in country in Ukraine?
Yeah. And then they've been talking about that quite a bit. Save Our Allies, they're a pretty good organization too. They're from Afghanistan. They're doing pretty good work over there too. With the trauma side of things and medical and providing medical aid and things like that. There's a lot of
their mission is to go into dangerous situations with the Billy Graham's organization. They go in there and that's what they do. During COVID-19, they're in New York City doing the same thing.
They do a lot of disaster relief and they do it well. They have it set up where it's very efficient. Your money's not getting wasted into that much.
Right.
And then there's a lot of smaller groups. I'd say the most effective ones are the ones you don't hear about. They also have the hardest time raising money because everybody wants to see the stuff on, social media and things like that.
Wouldn't bet them.
Honestly, if I didn't have to come on and talk about it, I probably wouldn't, but it's, you have to let people know what's going on. And I think it's our responsibility. I've talked to my own representatives here in the United States too. My local representatives, congresswomen, and told them what I think is going on and what we should be doing, and how we should be helping a little bit more than we are, at least some air. I mean, we could throw a couple of drones up at least, but I think it's important that we understand this is kind of a pivotal moment in history. Like you were just talking about, nobody wants World War III. Everybody's in their minds, oh, this isn't it. This isn't it. This isn't it. That's that confirmation bias, right? That we have to fight against as an intelligence guy. It's like, hey, what's the enemy going to do? This is what the enemy's doing right now. It doesn't matter what you want. This is the situation it's presenting itself, and eventually you're going to have to respond. So depending on how he does in the second wave, which I think is coming, we'll see whether or not we have to get involved. I like the fact that the other factor was like, we're not going to get involved. And it's like, yeah, a lot of people have said that throughout history, World War II, World War I. Mm-hmm. We're not going to get involved. It doesn't matter what you want. It's the situation's presenting itself. How are you going to respond? It would be nice if we broke the cycle of repeating history. Maybe we're a little proactive on it. While all these people have the motivation to fight, and the resources and stuff before it's spent, at least doing something a little more kinetic, I think would be good. But I also understand, I think the reason I got back was, well, what about nuclear war? I said, well, people have always been able to push buttons. Even after the Cold War, that threat will always be there, but it's a threat and it's used that way. And if you let somebody use it so they can commit genocide, what's the difference?
Sure.
You have to do something. You have to do something. That threat's always going to be there no matter what we do. So that was interesting to get that one back and then say, oh, that's the reason we're not going to do anything. And it's like, that's not a very good reason. And eventually, like I said, if it keeps going, at least NATO or at least the EU should be doing something. It's a European country. They're very close to getting membership. It's not like they weren't being considered. It's like, but they're not doing anything either. But typically they wait for us, to take the first step. I'm not a warmonger. I don't want to go to war. I'm the biggest peace-loving hippie you'll ever find. I grew up in California, Northern California, believe it or not. And
yeah,
I love peace and I don't want to see war. I don't want to see my kids go to war either, though. And I do think if they don't do something soon to intervene a little bit more than they are. I'm not saying put boots on the ground, but, close the airspace, throw up a few drones. We've been doing it forever in the Middle East. There's no reason why we can't provide that kind of stuff here. So, but I'm just a guy. I was only a captain when I got out. So
the Army officer and intel officer. I was going to ask you, based on everything going on, it's not like you said, it's not going to end anytime soon. Like you said, Russia's regrouping, re-strategizing the new attacks. They may go, they could go biological. Hope they don't go nuclear. But the minute they go nuclear, then that crosses the red line for the UN. The UN's got to respond. If that's the case, and America's got to get involved. However, America is so far advanced technology-wise, we don't really need to have boots on the ground in Ukraine. We can fight this war with our technology.
Yeah, my theory on that was, like, if I was in charge in a perfect world, this might not get me any work in the future, but we'll see. I would cyber attack the crap out of Russia right now. And maybe even do an air campaign. They're so tied up down there. Maybe it's time for a preemptive strike, to stop it from happening. I think that would stop it. It would bring it home for them. But, a lot of people are like, well, that's just, once again, warmongering. I'm like, we're already at war. We're in a globalized world. It affects everybody right now. Everybody's seen that in their gas tanks and everything else. It's going to affect it even more in the future with the food. There's a lot of grain coming out of Ukraine. This is going to affect everybody. So we're already at war. All right. What would be the least, what would they not expect to happen? But we do have technology that we could do a lot with, and if that fails, there's a lot of snipers out there.
Oh yeah.
Is that wrong to say? I don't know.
A lot of capabilities out there that we have access to as a government.
Like I said, there's more that we could be doing, I feel, and a lot of other people do. And I think it's interesting more on the Polish side to hear the comments of would America actually come to help us? Because they're not helping Ukraine. Would you guys actually come to us as an ally and help us if this started, if this creeped over our border? I mean, you're getting missile strikes that are only an hour away from the Polish border. And so the people there are concerned. They're just like, what would the U.S. do? Would you just leave us too? And they always throw in Afghanistan. It's always about Afghanistan. Look what you did to Afghanistan. I've had people throw in my face. It's like, you shouldn't give advice to anybody. You guys lost both wars. And I was like, touche. I don't want to bring up body count. I won't, but I get it. It's not a lack of trust in our military and those resources. It's the political side of things, that nonsense. There's just too many weak leaders right now, unfortunately.
The world knows who's in Washington, D.C. now, pulling the strings, and that's what they're basing their decision.
It's on both sides. I've talked to Republican and Democrat. Nobody wants to do anything. We shouldn't get involved.
Right.
So, you'll eventually have to, and by that time, a lot of those resources are going to be spent.
Yep.
And you're going to end up wasting more blood and treasure from us to do it. But I could be wrong. I am hoping that there's some kind of divine intervention here, and that some kind of miracle happens to slow this down and change the course of it. But right. I study history, right? The idea of intel is to study history and predict courses of action.
Yeah.
And if you look at history, put aside the technology and where we're at, how advanced we are, and everything else, if you look at history, it's following a pattern. So I don't know. We'll see. I know we plan on with this organization and then with our own nonprofit, we plan on providing support for as long as we can. And I tell you, they do appreciate that. They understand the difference between the American people and the political nonsense that's going on, I think. I do hear some weird stuff coming back from here. Like, I don't know, Russia's I don't know. I don't even want to bring it up. It's not even worth talking about. I've been hearing stuff. I've been hearing some weird stuff coming back about doing the world, the new world order and all this other stuff and doing the world affair. And I'm just like, if anybody's listening to this that actually buys into that nonsense, there's no justification for going out and slaughtering thousands of innocent people who have nothing to do with politics or policy or anything else. There's no justification for that. He is wrong. This is evil, and it needs to be stopped, period.
I would agree with that. We've been hearing stories too about, there's special forces on the ground doing operations in Ukraine and stuff like that. You can tell me you can't really go into that. That's totally fine.
Honestly, everything that we do is so humanitarian based. Like even the guys on the ground, no weapons, no kit. You're just there to facilitate training. You're there to meet with people, to encourage them. Some people are asking for like body armor and stuff like that. They just recently scheduled that in Poland for level 3 and down, where it's for humanitarian aid for protection. Okay. Sure. So you can bring body armor and stuff in, but when you start getting like optics and things like that, if it's not in your nonprofit charter and you go outside of that, it's not about breaking any laws. It's about getting kicked out of banks for being high risk. And it's about your donors having to get audited 10 years back because you screwed up and did something outside of your charter. I know that there's the military side of things. I haven't really contacted or been in contact with a lot of people that are involved. I don't think we have a presence there, honestly. If it is, it's a very small, like tier 1 level stuff. I don't think we have anybody in there. When I was in Poland, I saw some people, that I knew, but I don't think so. And we've been giving them support though since 2014. Our special forces have been training. They had their own Q course.
Yeah, that's true.
In for the Donbass region and Crimea, for the annexed regions, they've been training them for years. So I'm sure that there's some of that still going on, the training mission. I don't think that changed. And then of course the resupply, give them javelins, things like that. But honestly, as far as a military presence over there, I don't see it. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think we need to put boots on the ground. I think we have boots on the ground in enough countries already.
Right. Yep.
And then proven that we don't really need to do that. But where we do dominate, where we have an advantage is in the air. It'd be nice to see them get some support. Although they're kicking butt. I've seen a few videos of them shooting down some hinds with javelins, like 2 at a time. It's pretty crazy. So they're doing a good job. I think they got some good training from the UK and the US to do that. But honestly, I have not seen or heard anything from anybody about boots on the ground in Ukraine.
Now, was there like pirating going on with supplies coming in from Poland to Ukraine? Is there some profiteering going on with cash and being people paid off? It's like the Wild West. Is that starting to happen? I know you're getting your military weapons and ammunition through that supply chain. Is it getting all wacky?
That's been happening for years. Black market, nothing new to Ukraine. Poland is actually, I think their border is a lot more secure than ours.
I would believe that right now.
They do a pretty good job of locking down. Poland, very law and order, and I like the country. It's probably the nicest country I've been to in Europe. But they're very much in line with follow the laws. You don't get to speed in Poland like you can on the Autobahn or something like that. You really have to watch it. So I think Poland's got locked down, but unfortunately, Ukraine for years has had corruption that's crept in from they black marketed for years when they're under the Iron Curtain, and that was the only way you could get stuff in, and some of those lanes have stayed open for years. So I don't doubt it. I'm sure it's happening. Anytime there's a catastrophe of some kind, or there's vulnerable people, there's going to be the vultures that come in and try and take advantage of them. It's just unfortunate when you hear about American companies and American people doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's kind of disgusting.
Yeah.
I was talking to a banker friend of mine in Southern California. I'm actually on a business trip down in Southern California right now, taking care of an op, and he is in the banking world. And he was telling me that people don't think we're going to be affected in the U.S. by what's happening in Ukraine. He said they're wrong. He said the currency system, the money system is all going to be affected one way or another. You see what, doing backing the ruble back with gold now, and that's what he says anyway. But he said there's going to be so much shifting going on with the world economy as a backlash, a blowback, whatever you call it, in dealing with the currency. And he said everybody's going to feel the effects of it. People go, I won't be touched by it. I want to know about it. But everybody, the world will be affected by it. What's your thoughts on that from a treasury standpoint?
The dollar to hryvnia, which is their currency, is all. When I was there in 2014, it was 1 to 26. Before the war started, it was 1 to 5. And so it's not like I think it's 1 to 30 right now. They've had a hard time, since the war started, with the value of their currency in Ukraine. The ruble and Russia and everything. I think the global oil issues or global energy issues that are coming out of this probably affect everybody more than the currency. I can't think of anything that I actually would want to buy in Russia. Right, I know that sounds maybe porn. I mean, there's not a lot. They don't have a lot of. There's nothing there, So I don't think that's going to affect us as much on the currency. But I do think like the commodity side of things, when it comes to the oil and then the food and then the wheat coming out of there and things like that. I think that'll affect the economy more than anything. But currency-wise, both of their currencies have been in the crapper for a long time, and it's not changing drastically.
Sure.
I mean, the hryvnia is only 3. It was 1 to 26 for years, and now it's 1 to 30. It's not like a huge. It's still drastic, but it's not like as drastic as it was at the beginning with 1 to 5 to 1 to 26. Russia, on the other hand, I don't know. I know that they started allowing their troops. They started recognizing the hryvnia, the Ukrainian dollar again, only because their troops were stealing from the ATMs and things like that and using it to buy liquor in the occupied areas and stuff. So they decided to allow that currency to be recognized again. I mean, that kind of stuff is just like, I think it's going to stay to that region. I don't think it's going to have a widespread effect. But like I said, the commodities, on the other hand, I think that will definitely, we're feeling it right now. I filled up my tank for the first time in a while. I've been over there for a couple of weeks in Poland, and it's expensive. I have to use premium in my Dodge. And it was like $100-something to fill it up.
Wow. $10 a gallon?
I don't know what it is right now. I didn't look at it. I just filled it up and then saw the total, and I was like, crap. It's like, yeah, it's expensive. It might stabilize a little bit, but anytime there's a conflict on this scale, with people that aren't, it's not like I said, it's not a developing nation or something. They do have something to offer. Right. At least Ukraine does. It's going to affect things, It
will. So
in the background, we got a local Air Force base that they've been flying like sorties for 3 days straight for some reason.
Oh, wow.
Maybe they know something we don't. I don't know. But,
any advice to the EP agents in the U.S. that want to go over there and play Jason Bourne? You said that you'd probably just donate the money, their money for airfare, and just donate to a good cause to stay in the stateside and stay out of it?
So there was a lot in the beginning. There was a lot of groups and big corporations that they have people there. Like a lot of these big corporations have people in Kyiv. I mean, it was a pretty big business center there, So a lot of them had to get their people out. They did a really good job. There's a lot of these groups that were using buses, got a lot of people out when they needed to. There was a lot of EP guys who were doing that and helping out with that. I had a hard time. I tried to call some of my old guys that I subbed out to there, but they're all fighting. So they all got conscripted. So there's no Ukraine subs that you can call on. There's definitely a need. I wouldn't tell anybody not to do it, but I would look at what the mission is. First off, going into people is not easy. Getting them to pop their head up when they're getting shelled, that's a terrifying thing. It's not like the movies, I mean, it's terrifying. So a lot of them won't come up to go to the meeting point. And it's not like you're going to go house to house grabbing people and put them in a van. If you have a specific target that you have to go after and find, that's one thing. If they're ready for you, but it's very fluid. It's not like going in and just getting somebody. You have to wait a lot. From what I'm hearing, you have to wait a lot. You got to wait till the right time, and it takes a lot of money to have somebody on the ground doing that. And not everybody there has the kind of money to spend on a 2-week op, where you're just pulling recon, waiting for the right moment to get somebody out. There's a lot of organizations that are in there now, and they're using local networks. That's the key. That's what we're looking at long term. Like, we don't have to go do that work. There's people there already. They know the networks. They know where all the checkpoints are. They know who's where the battle lines are. They have people on the inside who they're talking to. They're getting information because they live there. They're connected, right? The reason why it's so difficult to do, to deal with insurgencies and things like that. And so I would use local networks. If you're going to have to do something, do that. The other thing I would say is, if you're going there to make a profit and make a bunch of money off this, you're going to fail. If you want to do some good, go do some good. Don't mark it up 90%, 80% or whatever. Just go in there to do some good. And guess what? Opportunities come along with that, because people see your heart. They see what you really are about. You're just trying to help people, and then those opportunities come. This isn't a situation you want to profit off of. That's like war profiteering. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is a situation where your skill set, everything that you've learned over the years really would come in handy. And the best way to make that come in handy is not by being Superman and going one at a time. It's by passing that information and that education you have on to somebody else who could use it effectively, because they're local and they know the area and they have the networks already built up and everything. I would say do that. If you're going to do something, go train some people, get them. At the same time, understand a lot of these people are like, maybe you can learn something from us, and that's probably true, because they've been doing this for a little while now. Even 1 month of this straight, trust me, you got some people who are really quickly adapting and learning how to survive in a conflict zone like that. So, but yeah, I would say be very careful about going in. You can't just go in and do operations. You got to get permission to do things. If you're doing business in Ukraine, you can't just do it. It's still a country. It's still a sovereign nation. They have rules. You're not allowed to actually operate as security inside Ukraine. You have to use locals to do that legally.
Sure.
And so you have to get permission from their government in order to do what you're doing. And if you get stopped at a checkpoint and you don't have that permission, they will pull you out and kick you out of the country. So you just got to be careful about how you're doing things.
And what's the so it sounds like the Ukrainians have a good spirit. They have that patriotism that's so contagious. And I mean, and then I'm here, Politsky, he's doing a phenomenal job from where he came from to where he is now. He became basically a real leader overnight. Yeah. And I know there's conspiracy theories that, he's a dictator too, and he's up to this and that. I'm like, I've heard the theory of he's the CIA plant in the government of Ukraine. And you're an Army officer. What's your thoughts on that theory?
I think the guy's a comedian who got elected because people were sick of politicians.
Oh, okay.
I mean, so you're talking about Zelensky, right?
Yes.
Yeah. He's not perfect, but he's not a politician either. He's not a military leader. He's been thrown into the fire.
Yeah.
I have a problem with the way, like, if you or I were conscripted in the military, they'd at least give us 8 weeks of training and then throw us on the front lines.
Right.
A lot of these guys are not even getting that. They're just getting an AK-47 and saying, hey, go pull guard. Right. And that they should have been more prepared. I think he should have been better prepared when he first came in and started doing that early on. And that actually might have, kept this from happening as a bit better, security posture. Of course, if the people aren't on board with that, they're not on board with it. He might have had another Maidan where they rebelled if they started conscripting people early on. He is not in a simple situation, cut and dry. The conspiracy theories out there about people being implanted, dude, you've done military ops. It's kind of like the conspiracy theory about 9/11. That cracks me up.
Oh, yeah.
Like, do you know how many ops actually ever go as planned? Even on a small scale, right?
Oh, yeah, that's true. Good point.
None of them go as planned,
yeah.
Ever. You always have to be, adaptive and things like that. That's why they teach you to adapt. To think that there's like some kind of grand conspiracy there, that's really, I think, just maybe it's out of ignorance. I don't know. But it's not really feasible. Now, to think that we don't influence political leaders around the world.
Sure.
Yeah, of course we do. money talks. There goes another jet. Sorry. And so
Refuel mission.
And so hopefully they're listening to the conversation right now. There's my conspiracy. But to think that there's like some kind of grand scheme to make that happen, to try and control that kind of stuff, I just can't see. It's not living in reality. You know what I'm saying? If you're in reality, you understand how operations work and how difficult they are to pull off flawlessly, where you can actually keep that kind of information secret for a long time. I just don't see it. The connection between Biden and all that and the Ukraine and Burisma and all this other stuff, it's like, yeah, okay, maybe there's something there, but it doesn't make any sense what they're saying, Like he's just letting it happen so that'll disappear. Well, if they had something on him and he was letting that happen, they just use that as leverage to get support. So it's like some of this stuff, it's just people trying to connect dots, and either I think they're just bored and they need a hobby or something. I don't know.
A hobby.
A dose of reality would probably be good.
It would be very good. Yeah, there's a lot of so much misinformation going on back and forth. It's probably part of, Russia's propaganda machine, I'm sure. They got agents spreading that out, buying for ads, whatever. And then I heard the biolabs, the reason why Putin went in there is because of the biolabs being created for the new virus or something. I heard that recently. Huh? Where do people get this?
Yeah. Like I said, they've been struggling for quite a few years,
Okay.
I don't think that Ukraine's the best place to do something like that. If you were actually going to do something like that, I think they'd probably pick a more stable country that's a little bit less likely to get invaded. Yeah. So that doesn't really make sense at all.
Good point.
Yeah. So I kind of look at the conspiracy theories and just go, okay, there's always a little bit of truth in there somewhere, but you're connecting dots. You need a hobby.
So if people want to find you, go to LinkedIn, right, Pete, or LinkedIn page, or what's your website again for people to figure out how to help?
Well, I'm really here to talk about like the nonprofit and what they're doing. So it's ironedgesharp.com. You can donate there through PayPal, and anything helps. We've raised about 40,000 for the go bags.
Wow.
And so we got about 50 out of that we've been able to hand out. And then if anybody wants to make a bigger donation, then they can contact us through the website as well. I am on LinkedIn, but for business stuff. And like I said, I really am focused on trying to get these guys the equipment they need so that they can be effective for a long period of time and save as many lives as they possibly can, because they are doing it every single day. Every day they go in and they find more people. It's mostly the vulnerable too. It's women, children. A lot of the focus we're trying to push is there's a lot of orphans and orphanages in Ukraine.
Yeah, sure.
And it's hard to get those kids out because of the government and the way that they have it set up, which is good because there's a lot of creepy creepertons on the border too, picking up mom and the kid, and all they have to do is fill out a form saying they can go pick them up in Poland. And so it's good that they're doing that, but it takes a lot of work to get those kids out and to find them. And then the same thing with elderly, the sick, people that can't get to those meetup spots. That's kind of what we want to focus on with these drivers, get their confidence built up enough to where they can go in and really start, getting those people out and make a difference.
And I'll have my podcast team put that website for the donation stuff on the comments on YouTube, so people can find that as well. So my team will do that. And just for the record, I'm not making any money on this. I might be paying this. I'm doing this out of my own pocket to support Pete and support Mike H, who was on the show earlier. We did a few episodes with him. But my whole mission here is to support my fellow veterans that are over on the ground in Europe, doing some great causes, helping people out. And that's the reason why I'm doing this. I want to help them out, help the Ukrainian people out. And you can find me on YouTube, Mark Ledlow, and Pete just told you where to find him. And I'm on Instagram as well, be Mark Ledlow. Twitter is on there. And please help out Pete and their mission over there to help these people out. And with that, I think we'll wrap up this show and call it a day and put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. Record to the cloud. And thanks, folks, for listening. And we'll catch you on the next podcast.